that. Okay, I think Yolanda, you can take the floor now, and we can start our session today officially.
So I think I will just starting the session. As like yesterday's session, today's session is also will be recorded. And so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining us. I'm Yolanda, and then I'm here with my colleague
Uday.
So both of us who happen to be the young professionals from Holland Circular Hotspot, and today we will be moderating this session. And then this is also the second and then the last day of our participation in the Expo Village as a part of ECESP conference. And then the main theme of our discussion today is about youth participation in circularity. So as being stated on the opening speech this morning by some of the high-level government officials and circular advocates, the young generation should have more opportunities and places to give their voices and point of view toward climate crisis and sustainability issues. Becoming a part of the society, the young generation is supposed to take more into account in designing climate policy since they are the future leaders. That's why we have this talk show, and then we want to also talk more about the young generation ambition, hopes, and concerns towards circularity. We are here with our special guest, a young professional also who worked in e-waste and green technology sector, Timo Bottema from Closing the Loop. I know you've been with us since yesterday, but there are probably new participants here who were not here yesterday. So I would like to give you the floor again to start introducing yourself.
Yes, thanks for that, Yolanda. I'm very grateful for still being called a young professional because I'm guessing I'm sort of nearing the end of my tenure as a young professional, but that's all right. So my name is Timo Bottema. I work for a company called Closing the Loop. Closing the Loop is a social enterprise founded 10 years ago with the mission of doing something about e-waste on this planet. But instead of viewing that as just a big issue, which of course it is, we also see that as a huge opportunity because there's so much e-waste in this world that is not yet being properly recycled, which is a very major opportunity because there's just so much value in all of these devices that we can recycle. And we use our efforts to try and make the tech industry, the IT industry, the telecom industry more sustainable and also more aware of what you can do to become more sustainable. Maybe very shortly on what we do concretely. So what we offer our clients is that they can compensate for the waste of their IT consumption with us. So let's say a customer buys 100 phones, that will in the end create waste. Inevitably, however well you treat your devices, that will create waste. We offer the service of waste compensation to our clients by compensating with recycling efforts in emerging countries. So whenever they buy, let's say 100 phones, we take out 100 phones from the trash in emerging countries, effectively making their IT consumption waste neutral.
Mm-hmm. So I know that you're the senior business developer of Closing the Loop. So what you're doing right now is more like establishing the B2B partnership, or it's more like a G2G, or how do Closing the Loop doing the business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we try to focus on large organizations. So that is indeed B2B, but also we work together with a lot of different other organizations like governments. One of our larger customers, for example, is the Dutch national government, which is a partnership we're really proud of. We don't necessarily work together a lot with the B2C, with the consumer market yet, but perhaps that might change in the future. But for now, for scaling purposes, it just makes sense to focus first on larger customers, businesses, or other organizations.
Yeah, I think I met with one of your colleagues, Reinhard Smith. Mm-hmm. He's the director of supply chain. I met him in The Hague last year because Closing the Loop is also one of the speakers for digital mission in Africa. So yeah, I know that you also have a lot of, how do you say it, like trainings, I think, to the people there, recycling the e-waste in the African countries. So that's how Reinhard also, I think, sharing the information about it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the reason we train people is well, because we want them to do the job right, but also because we working in e-waste means you have to be compliant with a lot of regulations.
Yeah.
So yeah, people need to be trained properly to to do a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, I think before we digging deeper to your personal experience and then your point of view in the young generations, because this is our main theme, as we did yesterday, we also want to have a warming up questions, but now it's a bit different. I'm just curious. It's already March 2022 right now, but then I want to know what kind of skill that you learned in 2021, like personal, professional skills, like probably you can share to us.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I actually started working for Closing the Loop last year. So for me, 2021 was obviously learning a lot about e-waste. But previously, I worked for a sustainable advising company where our sole focus was on sustainable assignments. And what I think I learned a lot about last year is the difference in how you can communicate about sustainable business. I started realizing last year more and more that the way you communicate on sustainability and of course also in circular economy matters a great deal in how effective you are. And my story probably 2 years ago was more about we have to do this because we want to save the world. Look at how much CO2 we emit every day. That might mean a lot to us as sustainability professionals, but I'm afraid that it doesn't resonate very well with, let's say, 90 to 95% of the people that just want to work on their normal jobs.
Okay.
And perhaps that's not a very popular opinion within the sustainability community, but I realized that I'm much more effective if I can catch people on other terms than just sustainability. And that's also what we're trying to do every day in our job. We're trying to prove to people that sustainable IT is great for sustainability, for making impact, but it's also great for business. So if you're a commercial firm, you're also going to look at what will this, what is in it for me? What's the value for me? And if I can prove that there's also other value in it for the clients, then they're much rather going to work with me than when there's not.
Yeah, but I guess also putting into the numbers, I think is one of the easier things to do, because I mean, in the circular economy itself, of course, the money is related to it, like financial aspects. It's like people want to know, well, sadly, people still want to know what's the profit if we want to transition to the circular economy, right? So I guess I agree with what you said, because last year I was also joining like a digital marketing analysis course. So it's also very interesting. It's not in the sustainability field itself, but like you said, everything is changing and shifting. Like people didn't really want to be relaying the hard truth, like you're doing bad, you're not doing good to the community and stuff, but then you can do the marketing in a soft approach, as you said, like relaying the numbers, relaying the profit, the value. It can be also a bit easier to the people itself.
Yeah.
And yeah,
is there something you, Yolanda or Uday, you learned last year that you want to share about as young professionals?
Yes, I actually really am having a shift towards what you said, because I was also very idealistic. So I completed my thesis last year, and I was super idealistic that we need to change the way people think. We need to change values. We need to change them on a cognitive level. We need to change them on an individual and societal level. And how can we do this in businesses and organizations? How can we make this transition? And I was coming more from an idealistic point of view on that as well. So I've been learning that idealism is okay, but it's not really useful when you come to the real world of making action. And the second part that you talked about was communication. And talking on a personal level, I think I am getting more and more attracted towards also how can I improve myself in communicating my beliefs, my to in the sustainability sector as well, and also on a larger human condition, I would say, that we all experience. So how can I make that to clear to people, not very complicated or abstract, but yeah, communication aspect. I'm going to learn that more this year, and that was something that I did last year as well. But maybe on a more of a fun aspect, we would also love to know more about that from you, Timo. But apart from professional skills, in 2020, I started picking up guitar and singing again. I loved to play guitar when I was a kid, and I left it for some reason for a few years actually. And I picked it up again, and it was a constant companion in the isolation and the lockdowns, and it was really, really helpful for me to relax myself through that as well. So that was one thing that I did on the fun aspect, and we would love to know more about that from you as well.
So you actually recycled your hobbies, right?
Yes, I did.
Please don't lose your idealism, right? I mean, you can be pragmatic in your daily work, but losing your idealism is probably not the right way to go.
Yes, no. I think you're making the right point. Don't lose it, but make it usable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what about you on a little bit of a fun aspect? What hobbies did you pick up last year?
Well, prior to the pandemic, probably I was very focused on work a lot of times, and the pandemic, I get to spend a lot of time at home and in my immediate surroundings. So I live in The Hague, which is a large town in the Netherlands that happens to have quite a bit of green areas. So I learned to appreciate that again. So because there wasn't much else to do, we went for so much walks in nature, and I really just rediscovered that was for me an area where I get energy from, that I highly enjoy, and that I should really make sure that I do that every week and not just once a month when I just happen to get into the forest. So maybe that's my discovery of the previous 2 years.
Yeah, I used to study and live in The Hague for 1.5 to 2 years. And when I was in The Hague, I think I'm more walking instead of biking, because I didn't really like to bike in a big city. So I think it's the other way around. For me, now I'm more biking because I live in the smaller city than The Hague. I live in Zwolle right now. So walking is not really, walking is fine, but then because we don't have tram, and then the buses is not very good. So I think last year I was more biking and then cycling even in the summer, which then I turned myself into a Dutch people and Dutch citizen who like to go cycling. But it's also interesting hobby to figure out.
Yeah,
and
I think just to add a little bit to Timo's, not add, but to actually say that I think, Timo, that more people can realize that, and also we or maybe policy on a policy level as well, or people working in bio inspired architecture and greening the spaces. I think a lot of people can have that realization as well, what you had, and I personally also get a lot of energy from nature. I have a plant right next to me. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm covered all over by plants. But anyway, back to you, Yolanda.
Yeah, now it's a very good warming up session, I think, for me as well. But then now I'm trying to dig deeper to our main topic today. It's about first theme is about your first encounter with circular economy and sustainability. I want to ask to Timo first, because I did a bit of background check. I know that you used to be an IT specialist. You still now are, I think, but you're more in the business developer side. But then how do you shift? I don't know. Can I say shift your career now to the green technology solution. What did you find the most challenging situation? But then also, what do you love the most about working in the sustainability sector?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, which I'm very happy to answer because maybe it'll help people. So indeed, I started my career working for a software company. I started out as sort of a technical specialist on the software that we produced, then switched to a slightly more commercial role. And at the time, I was never thinking about doing something sustainable with my life. I don't think it was a topic that was much on my mind, to be honest with you. And probably we're only talking about, let's say, 4 years ago, not more than that. So my sustainability shift has been quite recent. And yeah, so I think I was working for this company close to 5 years, and I was having a good time. I learned a lot, and then I decided, okay, I'd like to try new surroundings. I'd like to see some different environments, experience something new. So I was, applying to a lot of different positions, but they were all positions that were sort of similar to what I had already done. And I was having these talks with people, and I thought, okay, I can have a nice job there, or I can have a nice job here, but it's not really, there's not much of a change. Okay, I might have a small pay raise, but I'm not changing a company for just a 200 euro pay raise a month. I mean, that was not the goal of me changing perspectives. So then I started writing down, okay, what is it I'm actually looking for? So I made sort of a list of criteria for a new job that I was interested in. And then I always wrote on top of my list, I wrote something like, I wanted to matter to society. I wanted to have some relevance, some deeper meaning than just, selling software, for example, which is also a great profession, but it wasn't doing it for me anymore. So I decided, okay, I can't go through with meeting all these companies anymore, because it will never fulfill my list of criteria. And then, I just got lucky, I guess. Then a good friend of mine was working for a sustainability firm, and he said, and he heard my story, and he said, okay, but if you have these skills in your current commercial role, then I'm sure we can use those skills within our company as well. So he set up a meeting for me with the CEO of the company. And yeah, I think a couple of weeks later, I decided to just go for it. And I lacked a lot of knowledge about sustainability at the time, but I was very eager to learn. And I got to roll into it. So I guess I was lucky. But I think everyone can be lucky. And I mean, everyone working in a company right now thinking, I want to do something sustainable in my career, they can do two things, or they can try and make their current role sustainable. And there's lots of opportunities for doing that. Like I also mentioned yesterday, we worked with a lot of great procurement professionals that I think potentially possess a lot of superpowers to kickstart sustainability within a firm. So that's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is, okay, look for a more sustainable job. And I'm quite sure if you have a position within a company with a certain skill set, whether it's commercial, whether it's marketing, whether it's procurement or IT, you can do the exact same thing within a sustainable firm. So I don't see any reason why you can't do something sustainable in your career, even if you're not trained as a sustainability professional.
Yeah, I do agree. I think you mentioned a very great point. If you cannot like shifting your career to the sustainability, then you bring the sustainability to your career and then to your positions. And it's also, I think, what the FMCG companies, for example, doing right now. I mean, they've been criticized a lot because of their packaging, plastics, and everything. But then I think they're trying to change. And I know also some of my friends, they're now putting the sustainability term in their position, but they're still in the FMCG companies, for example. But I want to then asking the follow-up questions. What do you think is the most challenging experience for you working in the sustainability field?
Yeah, that's a tough question. That's like the kind of question I'd like to shift to one of my co-panelists first, see what they answer. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's very much related to the way we communicate about things. That is a shift that was, yeah, not that easy to make. But then again, things that are worth it are not always easy. So yeah, it's sometimes a bit discouraging. Like I talk to a lot of procurement professionals or sustainability managers or IT professionals or IT managers. And sometimes I ask them if they would like to join our program, if they would also like to waste compensate their IT devices. And then the answer is, no, we don't see the reason, because we don't have to do this. There's no law that we have to do this. And that tells me a couple of things. It tells me that this company is not ready to really take the next step in their sustainability journey. But it also tells me that I might have not done my job correctly, and I have not proven enough the value of actually doing this sustainable thing for them. And overcoming those objections from people that are not very eager to take sustainability or circular action, that is a tough job. But it's also why I like my job. I mean, I work in a relatively unknown sector of circular IT. I mean, who works in circular IT? Like if you, let's say you work in solar energy, you don't have to convince, especially with gas prices these days, you don't have to convince the owner of a building to put solar panels on his roof, if possible, because he will earn back the investment in 7 years or maybe shorter with current gas prices. I cannot make that business case for circular IT. So it's a tougher job, but that just means there's more of a challenge.
Yeah, so I think your wish is granted. I also want to ask Uday, you're also now working in the sustainability field, and what do you think about it? What is the most challenging experience for you to work? Not in the HCH, but yeah, okay. You can also say in the HCH if you want.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I'm recently new to the field of becoming a professional, I would say. We all are, I guess, from the HCH team here, excluding Timo, but I think my challenge is to use my skills in the best way, and also while I'm doing things, discover what is most suited to me, what I can make the most difference on. So I can say that I'm still orienting myself of how to do it. Sometimes I feel that research and academics is my calling, but then I feel that that is sort of disintegrated from the actual stuff that is happening in the industry. So I want to sort of coalesce those two things and work at the intersection of it. And that is my challenge, and that is also what Holland Circular Hotspot is sort of providing me with right now, this challenge, and I'm tackling it, and I hope to grow through it. So yeah, that's my answer for it. Thank you.
I think Uday is the youngest colleague in HCH, so he's like in the middle of the millennials to the Gen Z, no?
Yes, I guess. Thank
but
you.
then, I want to continue asking the questions to Timo again. So after, okay, I think it's like 1 year you're working in the closing the loop right now.
Yeah, it's more like half a year at the moment.
Yeah. Did you see yourself that you've been changing? I mean, in terms of, I don't know, your point of view, your mindset, or your behavior towards sustainability consumption?
Yeah, so I think a closing loop has a very pragmatic view of what sustainability can be for companies. So what I really like in the way that we perceive things is, a lot of companies are not taking that much action towards sustainability at the moment, especially not in IT consumption, because it's quite hard. I mean, what can you do? You need to consume or purchase these devices anyway. So you can make sure you buy the most sustainable devices. You can make sure you use them as long as possible, and you can make sure that whenever you get rid of them, they get a proper second life. But then that's sort of where it stops for most companies. And we try to make the next step after that, or maybe before that, but mostly after that, we try to make it as easy as possible. So companies can never say, this is too hard. We don't have the capacity for this. We lack the knowledge of what we're doing. No, we're going to make it this simple for you that you just sign it, and then you get the value of our sustainable proposition. And I think the world is in more need of solutions like that, because if you make sustainability easy and therefore also understandable for every single person, that will definitely inspire them to take the next step as well, because they've taken that first step, they've learned from it, and they can now, and they've also seen the value of it firsthand, not just from hearsay, but also from their own experiences. And then they can take next steps after that. So in every industry, I think we need sort of the easy first steps. And when we talk about circular economy, pragmatic first steps, people sort of think, okay, but that's just incremental change, and we want systemic change. And I think the term systemic change is I understand the concept, but it's scaring companies off, because the idea, what to call it, the idealism behind it is great, but there is no company in the world that is successful at this moment that wants systemic change, because it disrupts their process. So we need to accept that incremental change can also be very fruitful, and that's what we're working on every day.
I think creating, it's not like systemic changes doesn't happen like one day or 1 month or 1 year, but I think creating like the milestones can be also beneficial for the company. I mean, of course, we have the long-term goal, for example, 100% circularity. But I feel also, I mean, in my current project or in my current work, telling to the company the milestone every year, it's easier for them. So they can see, they can learn from that, and they know the loss, they know the profit, they know the opportunities. So it's easier. I mean, by saying that 2050, you have to be 100% circular, no waste at all. It's like, how do we do that? So that's also I've been learning, I think.
And it's also something that's, if we talk about 2050, I mean, that's a great goal, huh? A completely circular economy in Europe in 2050. But what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean that we need to do now? It tells you nothing about the action we take in the coming 5 years, whereas that's probably much more relevant than what we want to do in 2045 or 2048. I mean, we have no clue what we're going to do in 2048, because there will be so much technological developments between now and 2048. We cannot even imagine it. I mean, no one 30 years ago, no one would have imagined that we would now have smartphones and talk to each other on laptops like this. I mean, and now it's so integrated in all of our lives. There's no way to know what you will do in 2048. So creating a roadmap towards 2050 is great, but put most of the focus on today or in the coming 5 years, because that's where the value is, and that's also where you know what you're going to do.
Yeah, I agree. Uday, do you want to respond on this?
No, I completely agree. Actually, I think in one of the sessions in the conference itself, there was a discussion about circular economy policy, conversation and actions, so like how the policy is being set, but what are the actions? And there is they were talking about the gap that is there, sort of that we can say as much as we want in discourse, but what are the actions needed to happen to make that happen? And I think in the Netherlands, for example, it's unrelated to IT, but there's transition teams on the agenda that are working on small goals on a policy level to figure out plans and roadmaps in smaller timelines. And there are 5 themes. One of them is construction, there's food, and a few others as well. So that is one way to move forward. And internationally also, I think people can learn from this initiative in the Netherlands, that setting up of transition teams, agendas, and working with research universities as well on these topics, which is very much happening. Because, for example, I learned about transition management, and they have the concept of niche management, and then you can bring that niche to scale up to the landscape level and the majority level. So these are complex topics, like Timo said, that 2050 is a good goal to set, but what do we do? What do we need to do right now? And I think there is progress happening. It's also becoming more mainstream with the help of policy.
Yeah, I was checking. Keita is also here with us, and then he's very keen to share also his point of view on this. Keita, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just supporting you technically today.
Okay,
trying to invite more people to join us in the meeting. But yeah, thank you, Timo, again for yesterday and also today for joining us. I did want to ask you a question yesterday, actually, along with the other participants. But I think mainly Bert yesterday mentioned about how sustainable products, needs to be appealing. We can't just have simple tree huggers to just join the company and just do good deeds. But of course, it has to be a company, it has to earn profits, it has to have a proper business model, and then you have sustainability. And then I understand that companies from yesterday are all focusing on this sustainable aspect, and made me realize, well, yeah, it's true. I mean, if you go to Yumbo or Albertine and see the vegan section, a lot of the things are very expensive, more expensive than the meat itself, the real meat. And then I'm thinking, of course, I want to do something good for the planet and buy these vegetarian alternatives. But then if they become more expensive, then what is the merit for me? Do I want to spend more than I need to? But a question to you in this context, I guess. I understand that you are sort of, making business from these services of recycling cell phones by adding certain fees to new or existing phone owners. How would you sort of see yourself once sort of all these old broken phones or non-recycled phones are eventually sort of recycled, and more and more phones are being used sort of carefully, and not as much waste is being put out in this electronic sector? You will lose sort of this business a little bit. And how would you feel about that? I mean, from a business point of view, and also personally, I'm sure there are some mixed feelings, but if you could elaborate a little bit on that.
But to me, as a convinced vegan, it was interesting what you said about vegan meat alternatives. But let's focus on the other question you had. Yeah, so our goal is to do something about e-waste in Africa and make sure that and not see that as a problem, but as a opportunity. So if there's no e-waste in emerging markets anymore, then I guess that's great. I don't see any downsides to that. It would probably mean that we did a great job and that we have cleaned up a lot. And of course that means something for our business. But we're a very, very innovative company. We're the only company in the world with the business model that we have, and I'm quite sure that if such an occasion arrives, which we sure hope will, that we can reinvent ourselves and focus on other waste streams, perhaps. I mean, there's a lot more valuable waste out there. So yeah, I don't really see the problem in that. I do have to note, however, that if we only talk about mobile phones, for example, I think approximately 2 billion phones are sold every year around the globe, and only a fraction of that is properly recycled. And most of that is recycled in developed countries like in Europe or in the US, for example. And even those countries don't make their own recycling goals at this moment. So yeah, we also have to be realistic. Like in the coming 10 years, maybe 20 years, the scenario that you sketch will not be unfortunately not be a reality. Even if we design completely circular mobile phones, then there will still be a lot of e-waste to be cleaned up that is currently being produced. But yeah, it's always great to think about what will progress do to your company. But yeah, I think we have more urgent issues to cater to at the moment. But yeah, I don't think we see it as a problem. Yeah, we would love to see that happen.
There's actually one question related to the closing the loop projects. I will read it to you now. Timo, it calls my attention that closing the loop is closely working in Africa. Why it has to be there? And then does your company has ambition to expand in other continents, for example, in my region in Southern America?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. Actually, it's quite a coincidence that we are working in Africa at the moment. So our founder has worked on the African continent.
Yeah.
And our other co-founder was actually born in South Africa and was raised in Ghana. So he knows his way around the place a little bit. So yeah, it just makes sense to focus on certain areas. We've also had some minor operations in some Asian countries, and we might do that again someday, but for now it just makes a lot of sense to focus. So we have a couple of African countries that we're currently active in, and we might expand that in the coming years, and if relevant, we might expand into Latin America or to Asia. It's also a bit and that is also related to what our clients might want. So if you talk with European clients, they are very interested in what we do for emerging countries in Africa and what value it will bring to the business. But when we speak a lot to the Asian countries, they sort of say, okay, but we're more interested in what you could do in certain Asian countries, for example, because that is closer to where we are. And therefore, it makes more sense to us to do it there. So that might be for us also a business reason to move to certain countries. But there's no concrete plans at this moment. But I don't know the situation in Latin America. I do know there's enough e-waste to be collected in Asian countries that also lack infrastructure and legislation as in most African countries.
Yeah, I do agree though, because I just finished my market research in Malaysia. And then there are so many e-waste. There's not only for phone, but also laptop, computer, washing machine, anything electronics. But as you said also that they don't have any EPR regulations coming up. Well, they have the roadmap, but the policy is not there yet. And then they were actually looking for companies, private sector or international collaboration. Because now, they don't know what to do. I mean, the infrastructure is there, but then they're also producing a lot of new electronics, but then the e-waste is just being even, I don't know, like in the, how do you call it, being incinerated. So it's just like burnt. Yeah, exactly. That's also, I think, interesting point of view if you want to explore there.
Timo, well, I was the one that asked that question. I'm from Ecuador in Latin America. And basically my question was because we are still really behind of reaching circular economy. We are still in waste management policies, and actually in Holland Circular Hotspot, we just launched last year a maturity matrix that you were able to compare different countries. You had 8 different countries included mine, and the big issue is that I realized that living here in the Netherlands is that there is a lacking knowledge of what is happening in my region. So I think that, and also that happened with the companies or like the government, that they don't know as much as we know about what is happening in the Netherlands. So I don't know, I think think that there is a potential market there, but it's still, I don't know, it's still needed to be discovered because we still, for instance, we don't have a really good waste management from the government and policies, for instance. So we still having like really big landfills. So
yeah, but by the sound of it, and of course, I'm not an expert on Ecuador or other countries in Latin America. It sounds a lot like situation in emerging countries in Africa. I mean, these countries also lack legislation, they lack infrastructure, and that's also why it was really hard for us to get started, because there's just nothing to get started on. In Europe, in the Netherlands, for example, we have a very mature e-waste infrastructure, and you can definitely improve a lot about that as well. But you know, the infrastructure is there, the possibilities are there, and yeah, in countries like Ghana or Nigeria, you have to set up everything yourself. So that kind of took a long time, and it's also why we continue to work together with local governments, and also yeah, to make sure that they will put in place new legislation and new infrastructure around e-waste to make sure that in the future things can improve. And we also talk, for example, with the European Union about those topics, because we just have a lot of experience in working together with the informal sector in these countries, cooperating with them and making sure that e-waste actually gets recycled properly. And I'm quite sure the same could be done for countries like Ecuador. It's just someone has to do it. And if anyone wants to do that, we are very glad to share information, share experiences, share our knowledge. But yeah, we are a small company with limited resources, so we have to focus now on these countries. But in case you know anyone who wants to get started on topics like this, feel free to have them reach out to us.
Yeah, I will connect you. My ex-boss, my former boss, she was the deputy mayor of my city, so maybe she's interested in working with you.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to getting back again a bit to the trying inspiring the young generation or young professionals to be work in the sustainability field. Well, we already talked about the challenges, the opportunities, our concerns, our hopes. What do you think that young generation who's now want to starting the career in sustainability field, what do you think that they need to know or they need to have to prepare on this environment?
Yeah, that is a difficult question, because you know, I'm not the one who sort of planned his career in sustainability. I just rolled into it. Happy I did, but that's the fact. You know what? I'm very happy that nowadays, when people leave their university, or their college or whatever education they have, they are already very knowledgeable about sustainability, because during my studies, there wasn't much focus on that. So that has changed tremendously, and you're even seeing universities in the Netherlands, for example, the Radboud University in Nijmegen announced last year that sustainability will be a part of every single curriculum they offer, and to me that's great progress. So you already have the experience, the knowledge about sustainability, so there's no reason you cannot get started on the topic. Maybe it's just about letting go of some of the idealism that you have, and accept that if you want to work for a company and make a big impact, you might not encounter a company very quickly that does everything right, but you might encounter a company that wants to do everything right, but just isn't there yet. Accept that fact and just help them on their road towards what they're trying to reach. But yeah, for young professionals, there's tremendous ways of impacting big companies and other organizations. Having said that, I don't think that applies exclusively to young professionals. I mean, if you're 60 years old and you work for a company and you want to make a change, please do. There's value in that.
Have you been joining to some, I don't know, communities or organization outside your company related to circularity?
No, I can't say that I have a concrete example of
Mm-hmm.
something that I would advise.
Connecting to you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's
Probably one.
always a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, I already get to have loads of conversations like this with our clients and our potential clients, and every single one of those conversations teaches me something about either about sustainability, but also about the way that companies make decisions on sustainability. Because and that always shows me that, you know, there has to be value in it, and that's where I get, I think, most of my knowledge from. It's just from having conversations with people who are actually working in the field and who get to make decisions about sustainability.
How do you usually approach them? I'm also curious myself. I mean, LinkedIn is one of the way, right? I mean, you can connect to people. But how about you? What do you think is the most effective way to learn?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about selling sustainable services or products, I think the best way is through word of mouth. I mean, we have a tremendously great set of clients who are also very keen on explaining why they work with us and why they are doing these sustainable IT action, why they're taking actions in those sectors. Having them tell the story to potential other clients is for us a huge enabler. So I think, you know, let's say you work for a sustainable firm and you want to sell your product to someone else, ask your clients who they would also see your product being sold to, and ask for introductions. I mean, you know, sustainability firms have they sort of have advantages that other companies don't have in terms of likability, for example. So use that to get your contacts to provide you with new contacts. That will usually do the trick.
Okay. Uday, do you want to respond on this or continue to other questions?
And no, just very quickly, I actually had thought of asking you this, Timo, that education has become part, you know, sustainability has become part of the education all across the field in all streams, in all courses, studies, especially business as well. There's so many sustainable business courses now on all levels, starters, also for like professionals. For example, there is a Cambridge certification course that I see on a lot of LinkedIn profiles as well. But
yeah, me too.
From the perspective, if you're talking to from your experience as a business developer, if you're talking to the course designers or professors in a capacity to advise them to include some skill sets to shape their students for entrepreneurship, for following their dreams first of all, but entrepreneurship and shape them towards the industry, what would you say to them, if you can reflect on that briefly?
Yeah, maybe there's two things I'd like to say about that. The first is just make sure that sustainability professionals also learn the skills that you just need to work in a business environment or to become an entrepreneur. So don't just focus on the sustainability or the circular aspect, but also focus on, let's call them old school business skills. The second is something that we as a company see happening with the people that, for example, apply to our job openings. It's not uncommon for people who studied something very sustainable to think that working for sustainability in the sustainability field means you write reports, you write or you do analysis, or you write sustainability reports or stuff like that. And I'm not too sure where that's coming from, but I think there's a lot of focus on doing really the deep analysis in university studies. And I think we could do with a little more pragmatism. We could do with a little more actual things that are actually going to happen instead of writing reports. I'd much rather have someone do something sustainable than write about doing something sustainable.
Wow, that's quite interesting actually. Also the second part of it, because you can go deep, but you have to have the other skills to back it up to actually, be valuable to a company, or to also start your own endeavor. From just very shortly, that I missed this course in the university that was called career development, and it was going on for two quartiles. And I thought, okay, I don't need this, it's okay. But I think it would have been a very good idea to to take
Of course, yeah, it sounds.
yes.
Maybe you can still take it.
Yeah, I think Haseha is aiding me in that now.
Great.
Yeah, with the trial and error experience by yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was checking at the time now. It's already 2:36, and then yeah. Timo, do you want to having a close statement about it, because we're gonna have like another session in the conference. So yeah, like 2-3 sentences for young professional or young generation in sustainability field.
Oh, that's a big responsibility. No, it was great to talk to you guys about working in the sustainability field. I'm really happy to hear your enthusiasm as well. Don't lose that. Uday, also don't lose your idealism. But if you want to work in sustainability, you can do two things. You can make it happen in your current job, or you can find a place where you can work and just try to take it one step at a time. Don't be too disappointed when your company is not fully sustainable by tomorrow, but try to take it step by step, and you can easily start by going for sustainable IT, because that's a really easy starter to go by.
Nice way to promoting your company as well. And how about you, Uday? Do you have like a closing statement about this thing?
Yeah, I think Timo has given us a lot of insightful things to think about as well, for me personally as well. And I am also on the journey. The potential listeners of this recording later, and also what we will communicate through this, I'm also on that journey. So it's taking step by step. The last point, I think it's very relevant. Take it day by day and go from there. But don't lose the belief also in your, if you're really motivated towards something, if you really believe in it, go for it. And I would reflect back on one thing that Timo said in the starting, which is he mentioned that he didn't choose for a job that was giving him a pay bump sort of, but he chose his values more than the value which is monetary. But I think that is also for young sustainability professionals, I think, to consider that, follow what you really want to do. Yeah. And I would like to thank Timo for being so generous with his time and being present with us on both the days. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Uday. Thank you also, Timo, for the very insightful closing statements. And then thank you also for the audience who have been joining us from wherever you are. I hope that you can join. I hope that you can gain something from this session. And then I think I will see you around at the next Circularity events. I'm Yolanda, and then with my colleagues here, Uday, Michelle, Keita, and also Timo, we are signing out right now. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Timo. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.